3 days without a proper meal had worn us thin. My old horse stumbled as we reached the gates of the biggest ranch I had seen in years. Emma held my arm while Luke walked beside me, too tired to complain. Luke whispered, "Dad, are we finally stopping?" "Yes," I said. "Just stay close." Emma looked at me. "Are we asking for help?" "We're asking for a chance." A woman stepped onto the porch. Her dress was clean, but her eyes looked tired. She studied us without saying a word. "I am Margaret Whitmore," she said. "Why have you come?" I removed my hat. "My name is Jacob Carter." She waited. I pointed toward my children. "I don't want your money." Her eyebrows lifted. "I only ask for one thing." "What is it?" "Feed my kids milk and I'll save your ranch." The workers nearby burst into laughter. One man shook his head. "You?" He mocked. "You can barely feed yourself." Another laughed. "Look at that horse." "It's older than my grandfather." I ignored them. Margaret kept staring at me. "You make a bold promise," she said. "I don't make promises I can't keep." "You expect me to believe that?" "No." "Then why should I trust you?" "Because I came here with pride, not excuses." She folded her arms. "You could have begged." "I won't." "Why?" "My children deserve a father who stands tall." Emma squeezed my hand. Luke whispered, "Dad." Margaret looked down at my boots, my coat and the dust covering everything I owned. Then her eyes stopped on my hands. She walked closer. "Show me." I raised them. She turned them over slowly. "These aren't a drifter's hands." She murmured, "No, they belong to someone who worked cattle all my life." She nodded once. "What happened to you?" "I lost everything." She waited for more. I shook my head. "That story can wait." For a long moment, nobody spoke. Finally, she faced one of the houseworkers. "Mary." "Yes, ma'am?" "Bring fresh milk and bread for the children." Luke's eyes widened. Emma smiled through tears. I bowed my head. "Thank you." She looked back at me. "Only today." "That's all I asked. If you're lying, I'm not." She pointed toward the fields. "Walk with me." I followed her across the ranch while Emma and Luke hurried inside. The moment I stepped beyond the yard, my stomach tightened. The western fence leaned badly. Several rails had been cut instead of broken. I knelt beside them. "Interesting," I whispered. Margaret frowned. "What do you see?" "Someone used a sharp blade." She looked surprised. "You noticed that already?" I kept walking. Several cattle stood apart from the herd. Their coats looked dull. One animal limped badly. "When did this start?" I asked. "A few months ago." "Did anyone find the cause?" "No." I looked toward the barns. Workers moved slowly. Nobody spoke. Their faces carried fear instead of pride. A saddle lay damaged. Water trough had been left nearly empty. Nothing looked accidental. Every problem pointed in the same direction. Someone wanted this ranch to fail. Margaret broke the silence. "Can you really save it?" I looked across the land. "I don't know how hard this fight will be." "Then why promise?" I smiled faintly. "Because my word is all I have left." Inside my heart, I made one silent promise. No matter how impossible this seemed, I would protect this ranch, repay Margaret's kindness, and give Emma and Luke the future they deserved. The next morning, I grabbed a hammer before sunrise. Samuel Briggs walked toward me and said, "You're awake early. I've always started before the sun." He studied me for a moment. "Margaret told me to let you work. I won't waste the chance." He handed me fencing wire. "Start on the north pasture. I already planned." "2. He smiled slightly. "I think we're going to get along." As we repaired broken rails, I noticed fresh footprints near the fence. I pointed down. "Did your crew make these?" Samuel frowned. "No, they're too fresh. We fixed this section yesterday." I looked closer. The fence wasn't broken by cattle. "What do you mean?" "Someone cut it." He stayed silent. We continued working until Noah Collins came running toward us. "Mr. Briggs." "What happened?" "I can't find 3 shovels." Samuel sighed. "Again?" I asked, "Does this happen often?" "Almost every week," Noah answered. "Tools disappear, then show up days later." "Who has access?" "Everybody." I exchanged a glance with Samuel. "That's strange." Before noon, we checked the eastern pasture. One gate stood wide open. I stopped walking. "Who left that open?" Samuel looked confused. "I locked it myself." I examined the chain. It wasn't forced. You think someone opened it? I know they did. He rubbed his forehead. We've blamed bad luck for months. I don't believe in luck. What do you believe? I believe somebody wants this ranch to fail. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Later, I walked among the cattle. One healthy cow suddenly collapsed. I knelt beside her. No. Samuel hurried over. Another one. When did she stop eating? This morning. I smelled the feed. Something felt wrong. I looked at Samuel. Don't feed this to the rest. You found something? I'm not certain, but my instincts are screaming. He immediately ordered the feed removed. Near sunset, Martha Ellis greeted me outside the kitchen. You look exhausted. I've had worse days. She handed me a bowl. Eat. I appreciate it. She smiled. Kindly. Margaret says you're different. I hope that's a compliment. It is. As I finished eating, Noah burst through the door. The South herd. I jumped to my feet. What happened? They're running, Samuel shouted from outside. The gates open. I sprinted across the yard. Dust covered the air. Dozens of frightened cattle thundered toward a rocky hill. If they reach those rocks, we'll lose half the herd, I yelled. Samuel shouted, What do we do? Ride beside them. Noah looked terrified. I've never stopped a stampede. You don't stop it, I answered. You turn it, Samuel nodded. You heard him. We raced beside the herd. I whistled loudly. My old horse responded instantly. I pushed the lead cattle toward an open meadow. Keep moving, I shouted. Samuel copied my path. Noah blocked the rear. Slowly, the herd changed direction. Minutes later, the cattle settled. Everyone breathed again. Samuel laughed. You saved them. Shook my head. We all did. Margaret rode toward us. I watched everything. Removed my hat. The gate didn't open itself. She looked at me. Carefully. You still think someone is doing this? I know it. She nodded slowly. Then I trust your judgment. As darkness covered the ranch, I felt eyes watching me. I turned quickly. Nobody stood there, only moving shadows. Still, every instinct inside me whispered the same warning. Someone knew I was getting closer. Someone wanted me to stop. I quietly promised myself I never would. The next morning, Samuel found me repairing another fence. Jacob, he called. What is it? Margaret wants you in the main house. I wiped my hands. Did she say why? She has someone she wants you to meet. We walked together until we reached the porch. Margaret smiled. I'm glad you're here. What's happening? My business advisor arrived this morning. Before she could say another word, a familiar voice answered behind me. Jacob Carter. Every muscle in my body froze. I turned slowly. The smile on his face made my stomach twist. Victor Hale, I whispered. He tipped his hat. It's been a long time. Margaret looked between us. You already know each other? Victor laughed softly. We were partners years ago. I stared directly into his eyes. Partners don't steal from each other. Margaret frowned. What does that mean? Victor answered before I could. We had disagreements. Stepped closer. You stole my ranch. His smile never moved. You lost it. You forged papers. You can't prove that. You spread lies about me. You ruined your own name. My wife and children lost everything because of you. Margaret looked shocked. You never told me this. Victor shrugged. He's angry because life didn't go his way. I clenched my fists. My life didn't fall apart by accident. Victor smiled politely at Margaret. You see, he's emotional. I wanted to hit him. Instead, I took one slow breath. Margaret spoke carefully. Jacob, why didn't you tell me? I believed I'd never see him again. Victor folded his arms. Yet, here we are. He offered his hand. No hard feelings. I ignored it. I'll never shake that hand again. His eyes hardened for only a second. Then the fake smile returned. I hope we can still work together. I don't. Margaret ended the meeting. I need time to think. I walked outside before my anger escaped. Noah caught up with me. You look pale. I've seen a ghost. Samuel joined us. What happened? The man inside destroyed my life. Samuel stared toward the house. Victor? Yes. He lowered his voice. He's been advising Margaret for months. I nodded slowly. Now I understand. Understand what? Why this ranch keeps falling apart. That afternoon I walked through the barns. 2 workers stopped talking when I approached. One whispered loudly enough for me to hear. That's him. The drifter. They say he plans to marry Margaret for her money. Another laughed. I heard the same. I faced them. Who told you that? Neither answered. They walked away. Samuel sighed. The rumors started this morning. I know who started them. Victor? He always hides behind lies. Samuel looked worried. People trust him. They trusted him before. And? He betrayed every one of them. As the sun lowered, Margaret found me beside the pasture. I heard the gossip. It's false. I believe you. Do you? She nodded. I've watched your actions. Not. Everyone has. She looked toward the house. Victor says you're dangerous. I met our eyes. He said worse things years ago. What are you going to do? I answered without hesitation. I'm done running. Even if it costs you everything. I already lost everything once. She remained silent. I looked toward the windows where Victor stood watching us. He lifted his glass with a smug smile. I returned his stare. Inside my heart, I made another promise. This time I would uncover every lie, expose every betrayal, and make sure Victor Hale never destroyed another family again, regardless of the price I had to pay. The cold arrived weeks before anyone expected. Snow covered the fields before sunrise. Samuel stared across the white pasture. This isn't possible. It doesn't matter, I replied. It's here. Noah ran toward us. The north herd is trapped. How many? Hundreds. I grabbed my saddle. Let's move. Samuel hesitated. The storm's getting worse. If we wait, they'll die. He climbed onto his horse. Then let's ride. The wind hit us like a wall. Snow blinded my eyes. I shouted, spread out. Noah answered, I see them. The cattle stood packed together, shivering. They won't survive the night, Samuel yelled. We have to move them. We pushed the frightened herd toward lower ground. Hours passed before we finally returned. Every bone in my body ached. As we reached the ranch, smoke filled the sky. My God, Noah whispered. A storage barn burned fiercely. Workers formed a desperate bucket line. Margaret ran toward me. Where were you? Saving the herd. She pointed at the flames. This happened while you were responsible. I wasn't anywhere near it. Victor stepped forward. I warned everyone. I faced him. What are you talking about? You left the ranch unprotected. I left to save the cattle. You abandoned your duties. I did exactly what needed doing. Victor sighed dramatically. Negligence has consequences. My anger rose. You know that's a lie, he shrugged. Can you prove otherwise? I couldn't answer. Margaret looked torn. I don't know what to believe. I lowered my voice. Believe what you've seen from me. She looked away. That hurt more than the cold. Later, Samuel found me outside. I need to ask something. Go ahead. Did you leave anything burning? No, he hesitated. I want to believe you. Then why are you asking? Because everything keeps happening around you. I stepped closer. Or around Victor. Samuel stayed silent. I don't know anymore. He walked away. His doubt hurt almost as much as Margaret's. Only Emma greeted me with a smile. I know you didn't do it. How? Because you always tell us the truth. Luke nodded. I believe you too. I hugged them tightly. Noah joined us. I heard workers talking. What did they say? They think you're cursed. I laughed bitterly. I'm not cursed. I know. Thank you. That night, another worker burst into the house. Help! What happened? I asked. 2 men are trapped near the frozen creek. I didn't hesitate. I'm coming. Margaret grabbed my arm. The storm is too dangerous. If I stay here, they'll die. I rode into the blizzard. The wind nearly knocked me from my horse. After what felt like forever, I found the injured men beside an overturned wagon. One whispered, "Leave us." I'm not leaving anyone. Together we struggled through deep snow. On the way back, I spotted frightened cattle trapped behind fallen trees. I climbed down. Noah! I'm here. Help me clear these branches. For nearly an hour we worked until the animals escaped. When we finally reached the ranch, exhausted workers stared at us. Samuel stepped forward. You saved them. I couldn't leave them. He looked at the rescued men. I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. Margaret slowly approached. I don't understand. You don't have to. She looked into my eyes. If you started that fire, I didn't. I still have questions. So do I. Victor watched from the porch without speaking. His smile disappeared for only a moment before returning. Everyone had witnessed what I risked to save lives. Some finally questioned the accidents, but without proof, Victor remained untouchable, and I knew the hardest battle still waited ahead for all of us. The storm finally passed, leaving silence across the ranch. Margaret asked, "Can you repair the abandoned cabin near the creek?" "I'll start today. It hasn't been used in years. Maybe it still has something worth saving." She gave me a tired smile. "I hope you're right." I carried my tools to the cabin. The roof leaked. The floor creaked beneath every step. As I lifted a broken floorboard, my hammer struck something solid. "What is this?" I reached into the space below. My fingers touched a small wooden box. Dust covered its lid. I carefully opened it. Inside rested an old leather journal. My heart stopped. My father's journal. His name, Thomas Carter, was written across the cover. My hand shook as I opened the first page. Most entries described cattle, weather, and land. Then I reached several folded papers. Land deeds, survey maps, signed contracts. I whispered, "No." Every page pointed toward the same truth. Victor Hale had never purchased my family's ranch. He had forged ownership documents. Then another set of papers caught my attention. The name made my breath catch. Edward Whitmore, Margaret's late husband. What? I read every line twice. Fraudulent contracts, false debts, illegal transfers. Victor had stolen from Margaret's family too. I grabbed the journal and hurried back. Margaret looked up. "Jacob, you need to see this." She opened the journal. Her face slowly lost its color. "These signatures, they're fake." She stared at another document. "This is Edward's name. He never agreed to those contracts." She covered her mouth. "I trusted Victor. He planned that." Tears filled her eyes. "For years." Before I answered, Martha quietly stepped into the room. "I need to tell you something." Margaret turned. "What is it?" Martha lowered her head. "I overheard Victor years ago." My heartbeat quickened. "Overheard what?" "He met strangers late at night." "What were they discussing?" "Land papers," Margaret whispered. "Why didn't you tell me?" I was afraid. Afraid of what? "He threatened people." I stepped closer. "What exactly did he say?" "He said anyone who talked would lose everything." Margaret sat down slowly. "So you stayed silent." Victor was gone, but his damage remained. Broken. Fences stretched across the ranch, empty. Barns reminded everyone of the harsh winter. One morning, several workers gathered outside the stable. A ranch hand sighed. "We should leave." Another nodded. "This place is finished." I stepped forward. "No." They looked at me. "We've already lost too much. We've only lost if we quit." One man shook his head. "Hope doesn't buy feed." "No," I answered. "Hard work does." Samuel stood beside me. "I'm staying." Noah smiled. "So am I." Martha carried a basket of bread toward us. Then, "You'll all need breakfast first." The workers laughed quietly. The heavy silence finally cracked. Margaret walked into the yard. "I won't force anyone to remain." Nobody answered. She looked at me. "What do you think?" I faced everyone. I came here with nothing. They listened carefully. I found honest people worth fighting beside. One older ranch hand sighed. "You really believe we can save this place?" "I know we can." Samuel raised a hammer, then stopped talking. He smiled. "Let's build." Everyone picked up tools. For days we repaired broken fences together. When one person became tired, another stepped forward. Noah called across the pasture. "Jacob!" "What is it?" "A calf!" I hurried over. The newborn struggled to stand. Emma knelt beside it. "It's beautiful." Luke smiled brightly. "Can I help?" I nodded. "Hold the blanket." He carefully covered the tiny calf. Within minutes it stood on shaky legs. Everyone cheered. Samuel laughed. "That's the strongest thing born here all winter." The sound of hope spread farther than any speech. Later, Martha handed me fresh coffee. "You've changed this ranch." "Didn't," she smiled. "You helped people believe." Again. That evening, Margaret asked me to meet her on the porch. She carried a leather bag. "This belongs to you." I looked inside. It held more money than I had seen in years. "I can't accept this. You earned it." "I didn't come for payment." "You deserve it," I gently closed the bag. When I arrived here, what did I ask for? She smiled softly. You asked me to feed Emma and Luke. Milk, nothing more. You also promised to save my ranch, and I intend to keep that promise. She looked at me with quiet respect. You've already done more than that. I shook my head. I came because my children were hungry, she whispered. You gave us hope instead. Samuel joined us. The workers asked me something. What? They want you leading tomorrow's rebuilding. I looked toward the barns. They don't need a leader. They disagree. Margaret nodded. So do I. The next morning, every worker waited beside the stable. One young ranch hand asked, what do we do first? I smiled. We work together. Another asked, even if it takes months? Especially then. Samuel lifted another fence post. Let's move. Everyone spread across the ranch. Laughter slowly replaced fear. Emma and Luke raced between the barns, smiling wider than I had seen since losing our home. Watching them laugh filled my heart more than any payment ever could. Realized my greatest reward had never been money. It was keeping my word. That single promise, spoken by a hungry father asking only for milk, had become the foundation that united every heart on the ranch. And together we finally believed tomorrow would be better than yesterday for everyone. Spring arrived with warm sunlight and green fields. The snow disappeared. Fresh grass covered the pastures. Noah waved excitedly. Jacob! I smiled. What happened? The first calf was born this morning. I hurried toward the barn. Emma clapped happily. It's beautiful. Luke laughed. It can already stand. I knelt beside the newborn. Welcome to your new home. Samuel walked inside. We've counted 12 healthy calves this week. That's wonderful. The crops are growing too. I looked through the open doors. Green rows stretched across the valley. For the first time, the ranch looked alive again. Margaret joined us. You kept your promise? We all did. She smiled. No. She looked around the busy barn. You reminded us how. Later that afternoon, she asked, will you meet me in the office? Of course. When I entered, a gray-haired gentleman stood beside her. Margaret said, Jacob, this is Attorney Henry Collins. I offered my hand. It's good to meet you. He shook it warmly. The feeling is mine. Several documents rested across the desk. I asked, what are these? Margaret answered softly, your future. Attorney Collins opened the first folder. After Sheriff Brooks completed his investigation, every fraudulent transfer connected to Victor Hale was declared invalid. I stared silently. He continued, that includes the Carter family ranch. My voice barely worked. What does that mean? It means your family's land legally belongs to you again. I looked at Margaret. You did this? She nodded. It was always yours. Attorney Collins handed me a pen. Please sign here. My hands trembled. I never thought I'd see this day. You earned it. Margaret said. I signed every page. Attorney Collins smiled. Congratulations. Jacob Carter. Thank you. After he left, Margaret placed another document before me. There's one more. I laughed softly. What now? I want you to become the permanent manager of this ranch. I looked at her in surprise. Are you certain? I've never been more certain. I don't know what to say. Say yes. I smiled, then yes. She reached across the desk. Welcome. Oh. That evening, Samuel gathered everyone outside. He raised a cup. To Jacob. The workers cheered. Noah laughed. To the man who saved us. Martha smiled. To honest promises. Emma hugged my arm. We're really staying? Yes. Luke looked toward the fields. Forever? If that's what you want. It is. Margaret stepped beside me. Do you remember your first words here? I smiled. I asked you to feed my children milk, and you promised to save my ranch. I remember. She looked across the peaceful land. You kept your promise. So, did you? Emma slipped her hand into mine. Luke held my other hand. Together we walked across the fields where my family had once lost everything. Now, every step carried hope instead of pain. I finally understood that the greatest reward had never been land, money, or success. It was watching my children smile without fear. It was standing beside people who trusted one another. It was knowing kindness had defeated greed. When I first arrived, I asked only for milk. Instead, I found a home, a family, and a future built on honor, healing, trust, and promises that neither time nor hardship could ever break again.